hope everyone had a great Thanksgiving. Yeah. Or, I don't know why I put on mic so that Zoom can hear.
Thanksgiving was nice. Thank you. How was yours?
It was excellent. We made the very smart decision as a family to go to the Wharf restaurant instead of cooking. Saved everyone a lot of time, so that was good.
Okay, that is a brilliant idea.
It was great. Okay, we're at 6:30, so I'm about to gavel us in. Good evening. Welcome to the December 2025 Affordable Housing Trust Fund Board meeting. My name is Joe Gravelisi, Chair of the Affordable Housing Trust Fund Board. We will begin with a roll call of the members. So if you're here, state present, and that includes if you're here via Zoom, just unmute yourself and state it. So Joe Gravelisi, I'm here. Matt Wolfert.
Present.
And Anayo Oswaki. Okay, and Deb Frank, I know, is not here. She stated that she would not be. Lori Manzo.
Here.
Layla Pietri.
Present.
Okay, Judy Gosselin.
Here.
And Dean Harris.
Here.
Great. So now we'll move on to start with ratification of the November 2025 meeting minutes. So you all should have had a draft sent to you right after the meeting. And then the final minutes sent to you as well with the agenda. With that, does anyone have any questions about the minutes from the last meeting? If not, I'm going to ask for unanimous consent to ratify those minutes. Any objections? Seeing none. Right. So now we'll move, as we usually do, we'll start with an update from the treasurer on our finances.
Good evening, everyone. This report is provided to me by the Asuta Newton. As it reads, the current balance for the Affordable Housing Trust Committee is $892,821.08. This balance is reflective of the approximately $167,000 that is encumbered for the next two payments to the neighborhood developers. The interest posted for this period is $3,368.56. And there was a deposit made for $250,000. Thank you so much.
Terrific. And we're going to kind of stick with you because we're going to start. One agenda item is to report out on a fundraising subcommittee meeting that was held last week. As I think everyone on the board knows, Anayo has headed up a subcommittee that's really focused on how to identify and seek out private and philanthropic support for the work that we do. And he had some updates, and then I'll also have an update as well, but I just want to kick it to you and I to report on that meeting and some of the conversations we had and some of the work that we're doing moving forward on this front.
Absolutely. Thanks a lot. Okay, great. Yes, Joe mentioned we met last week, December 3rd. We discussed quite a few things. Primarily, we discussed our strategy for next year in terms of the fundraising efforts to reach out to community partners, to try to kind of work with current partners to look for, to fund proper grants and other things. We also met to discuss one of our potential sponsors, who I won't name because we're still sort of developing it. But one of the key things we talked about was coming up, our brainstorming a list of what we called funding needs for first-time homeowners. And we came up with this list, and we'll put it together. But just to briefly describe to you what we discussed, some of the topics that I'm going to present now are some ways in which we can help craft a proposal to our sponsor, and also it would allow us to kind of harmonize our development, or crystallize our approach for next year as we look for additional sponsors. The topics thus far submitted are one is the subsidies for unit sales. So the broad theme is called funding needs for first-time homeowners. And the idea behind it is to come up with some topics that we think might be helpful for first-time home buyers. The first is, in no particular order, is subsidies for unit sales. Second is closing costs for affordable housing. Third are things like additional homeowners repairs program. such that if you, for one of the challenges that homeowners often face before actually buying a property is that they don't realize some of the costs they might need to repair some of the part to the building or the property that they weren't know. So the idea behind that is to help with that. The other two, upfront purchase cost, home inspection, lead inspection, that sort of things, and finally subsidies for insurance. Again, none of these things are particularly set in stone, but these are just general fundraising ideas or brainstorming ideas that we hope will eventually select one or maybe two to present to a current or a sponsor.
Good summary. And would agree on a lot of those priorities as things that we should definitely consider. And also potentially things that would be of interest to possibly a nonprofit partner to then work to apply for support from like a bank or financial institution or some other foundation or, ways that we can get charitable funding. To build off something else Anayo said, yes, we're not going to, name drop yet at this point, but I've had some initial conversations about, and then we talked about it in the committee, opportunities for partnership to expand on the work that we did with the senior repairs program. And I feel pretty optimistic, including some further conversations that were had recently, that we may be able to go to a potential, private funder with a real proposal, right? That says, if we got X, Y, Z, we'd be able to grow what we did with the senior repairs program from approximately $53,000 to support 11 or 12 households to, a larger dollar total that would allow us to really go like soup to nuts and really get someone's home in a state of good repair. That's like an older, low-income home buyer. I would like to schedule a follow-up on this with you and other members of the fundraising. So one challenge I have is I'd like to schedule a follow-up on this, but we can't have a majority of our members on the call because then it becomes a open meeting law issue. So let's work on scheduling a fundraising subcommittee call next week, and then we can open it up to other members of the board that might be interested in talking about this, but then we'll have to set a cap on participants. So let's work on that together. If you want to maybe send out like a Google poll or sometimes tomorrow for us to meet next week, I think that'd be great. And we can continue to flesh this out a bit. But yeah, to Anayo's point, I think we look at two different kind of broad avenues for where we're looking for some financial support or where there may be opportunities to partner with private entities. One is the senior repairs, or not necessarily seniors, but like home repairs in general for low-income or first-time home buyers. And then also just some of this sort of purchasing support for first-time home buyers. So excited about the possibilities there. I just wanted to stop and see if anyone had questions, comments, thoughts. Anayo, I think, covered it pretty comprehensively and has some good information compiled as well on a Google sheet, which is serving as a guide for a lot of this work too. So we will move forward. As I mentioned, we'll work on getting something scheduled, hopefully in the next week or so, to continue the conversation. That'd be terrific. And then actually what I'd like to do, with the board's permission, is take an agenda item out of order and move straight into, I had on here sort of a goals and objectives for 2026 item, and I wanted to take that up a little bit sooner because I want to make sure to have adequate time to talk about some new ideas. Can I ask for unanimous consent to take that item out of order?
Second.
Yeah, any objection?
Yep.
Okay,
Yes.
great. So seeing none. So first of all, I think now that we're at the end of the calendar year, this is our last meeting for the calendar year, I just want to reflect on, this was after the planning work started in 2023, and then in 2024, we kind of started to put the wheels in motion. 2025, we've really accomplished a lot. This is our first time we saw the actual completion of an affordable condo project that was supported in part by our funds. So that was really exciting. So now there's people moved into homes in Revere that were able to do so, because in part of the support that we provided. So that's something we can be really proud of. We've had now 3 first-time home buyers supported by the down payment assistance program. Again, like real tangible results for real people, so something that we can be really proud of as well. The senior repairs program, I'll give a full update on it, but, supporting 12 households with critical repairs that they need. And then, of course, 110 Ocean, the construction is beginning and, we'll be able to celebrate that. So a lot of good done in just 1 year, over this past year, which is exciting. I think when we look to 2026, we've talked about, there's a few things that we've already kind of set in stone that we know we want to do. So continuing some form of a senior repairs program, supporting affordable ADU construction is something we've already voted on, and so we're going to be moving forward with that. Continuing to support the 110 Ocean project and maybe similar things if they move forward. But then we have this sort of broad bucket or category that we've budgeted for and talked about around homeowner assistance or first-time home buyer assistance and things like that. And I want to take some time to sharpen up or discuss some ideas around what that might look like. And then I also want to hear about other ideas that people have beyond that, but I just want to take some time to start there. So I know one idea that we've talked about, and I still think could be viable for us, but I think we just need to research some of the complicating factors. Is this concept that we talked about where if like a 2 or 3 or 4 unit development goes up for sale, would we be able to subsidize the sale on one of the units and deed restrict it? I think that's definitely doable. I think you get sort of condo association issues and things like that are one of the mitigating challenges that we have to overcome, but I think it's definitely doable. But I have taken some time, and I'd love to, and this is the reading material that I was supposed to send you all today, and I didn't, but I'll send it and would like to get everyone's review and feedback. I've looked at some other programs that trusts or similar entities have done, not just in Massachusetts, but around the country on this front. There are some sort of buy-down programs that I found intriguing that have been done for first-time home buyers. Some examples in Massachusetts include Plymouth, Sudbury, and Norfolk. And essentially, there's a few different models for it, but it's if there's a first-time home buyer with income under a certain level, there can be a subsidy of, in the Plymouth example, up to $75,000 to sort of buy down the purchase price of the home. And then in exchange, there's a deed restriction on the property for either 15 years or in perpetuity, depending on the program. I think this is an interesting model that we could consider. The pros and cons are very similar to other ones that we've weighed, right? Where the longer a deed restriction on a property, the less someone who's a first-time home buyer has a chance to, accumulate an asset. But at the same time, we also don't want to sort of fully just subsidize something that only accrues to benefit someone's personal interest, right? You'd want to make sure that it either adds to the city's subsidized housing inventory or some way, or we could look into like the Commonwealth Builder style agreement where half the proceeds of a sale, if it were sold, were to go back to the trust, something like that. So I think that's a model that we should consider. I'll send you a listing of some of the different types, but basically, some of them are exactly like I said. Others, it's like in perpetuity. There's a flat rate subsidy that goes into the sale, and then the restrictions in perpetuity. And then when the property is sold, there's a lottery held for the resale of it to people that are on the qualified buyers list. I find that intriguing. I think that's something that we might want to consider. So I'll send like the different models that I read, but they all kind of converge around those key themes. So I want to open up for discussion, kind of see what people think. If you've heard about things like this before, if you have gut reactions, things you'd want to research, but I think it's a model that could be interesting for us.
Yeah, I think the spirit of it is totally aligned with, what we're trying to do and some of the programs that we had this year. And just one thing it actually brings to mind too, like I know, and this is something we'd have to definitely do more research in, and Deb would probably be a good resource here, but I know the national builders, like you don't hear about it as much around here, but like the Toll Brothers, the D.R. Hortons of the world, they kind of put together these agreements with different loan originators to do what are called rate buy downs. So instead of just taking $75,000 and throwing it at the purchase price of the house, you get more bang for your buck in terms of affordability by doing a rate buy down on the front end, giving that $75,000 upfront to the lender, and they can reduce the rate accordingly based on like how much that reduces, the present value of whatever they would have gotten at the market interest rate. And you're actually able to get the home buyer more purchasing power doing that than just straight up reducing the purchase price 75%. So I don't know what kind of partnerships we would have to form, or if it's like a really straightforward thing, or if it's a really complicated thing, but something that's kind of in the spirit of that program that's worth doing more research on.
Thank you. Definitely something that we should talk about with Deb and with others as well. Yeah.
So my thought process is if we only have 900,000, let's say, in the account right now, if we were to buy a unit or two or something like that, then we're limited. In some ways, those bigger chunks of money, when they go to individual units, limit us to impacting one or two families or maybe three families. I did like the idea when we were helping some of the developers out, I think the neighborhood developers specifically, where we gave a significant amount of money, and there was the impact of 50 affordable units. And so I thought, bang for your buck. But I do like the idea, though, that if we did some sort of, maybe we take one unit, and if at some point in time they do sell it and we get 50% of the profit back, that it does bank some of that money for the future. It may not be, 10 years from now, there'll be a trust fund board, maybe not me, maybe, and all of a sudden there'll be a couple $100,000 coming back into them. So you're kind of feeding the program in the future. And I do like the rate buy down thing too. I think that's a good idea.
Yeah, I think what I particularly like, kind of to your point, is that if you do like a split proceeds deed restriction, like the Commonwealth Builder one, you allow the first-time home buyer to benefit from the appreciation of the home's value, but also part of the benefit pays forward, helping other people, have that same opportunity that they did to be supported by city programs. I've seen the examples just in the past couple months of, if someone sells their affordable unit at resale and all they kind of get for it is what the growth in sort of inflation was over that period of time, they have pretty limited resources then to go find another place to live in the greater Boston area. They're kind of back at square one. Obviously, we can't solve the problem, the problem that affordable units aren't for everybody, right? Like they might fit certain phases of your life and might not, but a hybrid approach that does, to your point, could help kind of alleviate that a little bit, but also make sure that we're making this a self-sustaining program. So I appreciate your thoughts there. I don't know if others have, and I want to make sure I'm looking at the Zoom screen too. I apologize if I missed anyone with a virtual hand up. Any further comments on this one? So if not, when it comes to the buy down program specifically, I will send around some documents and some stuff that I've found about other communities that have done these. Some other things that I've looked into that are interesting, although I don't quite have them as like fleshed out, but I want to just put them out there as things that I've researched. Trusts do have the ability to accept like property conveyed to them by people that choose to donate it or are compelled to donate it, for whatever reason. I haven't found any examples of this in Massachusetts, but I have seen some examples in other states of like, there's relief programs for property taxes or home repairs for folks that are part of an agreement where, a property might be conveyed to the trust upon the person's death. Like that's something that is a model that I've seen or read about in other states. Haven't quite drilled down into the details of that and whether I think that would be a good idea or not for us, but it's something that is interesting and that I've been able to learn a little bit about. and other kind of different creative types of deed restrictions. So, with that, I just want to open up. I had this time sort of blocked off for big picture, right? Like we look at our different buckets of things we're trying to accomplish. Do we think we have the right goals, and are there things that you think we should be doing to dig into those goals? So I know I have said a lot, so I'll stop and see if others have things they want to offer on this topic.
So I think we've accomplished a lot with the little that we have. And look, the gifts that we've received and the money that we received, is substantial, but in the grand scheme of things with the cost of housing prices, when the lowest price house is probably, 600,000 in the city right now. But what we've done with what we've had, I think, is tremendous, whether it's, working with the elderly for their repairs, or looking at first-time home buyer initiatives, or, subsidizing different projects throughout the city. So I like us continuing and kind of picking and choosing, what's the best for us. I almost said the housing authority, but what's the best for the trust fund. So I think we're moving forward in utilizing, we're trying to maximize the bang for the buck that we do have, and I do think that that's the direction we should continue to go in.
Great. One thing to reemphasize Dean's point, in terms of doing what we can with limited resources, our friends at Habitat for Humanity that I know we've talked to and worked with in some ways in the past, just in a recent conversation with them, as an organization that does kind of no frills, low to moderate income housing and gets a lot of volunteer labor, they're still looking at a per unit cost of like $400,000 to $500,000 per unit to build a unit of affordable housing in Greater Boston. And that's like, again, with a lot of donated labor and with no frills. Like, these aren't luxury units. These are, they build really nice properties, but fairly modest, right? So I think that goes to show, A, the scope of the housing crisis, and B, why we have to be, to your point, selective with where and how we invest money. Because if we're just pure unit creation, we can create one, maybe two, with what we have in the fund. I did see, I think, a comment in the chat. Lori pointed out, a program for veterans. Agreed, definitely, something that we should think about, like whether it be, and I'd have to look into whether this falls within the guidelines of what we're allowed to do, but something like the senior program, or a first time, like, could we take the senior program and expand it to include eligibility for income eligible veterans? I don't see why not. First time home buyer, could that be expanded to be like a program for veterans too? That might be a little trickier, because I think that a lot of the programs for first time home buyers, like, there's really strict definitions of what is a first time home buyer, where you can't have had like interest in a property in X number of years. And I think that's kind of more defined, but I think like repair programs or other types of programs, we could definitely look at ways to expand eligibility and work with the Veterans Affairs Office as well, on ways to do that. So appreciate the comment there. And if you have anything else you want to add, Lori, I didn't mean to speak for you. I just saw that you dropped it in the chat, so I figured I'd relay it.
Oh no, that was exactly what I was hoping for, because the veterans, especially in our city, have so little help. It's good to think of ways that we might be able to give back.
Absolutely, and really appreciate you making sure to put that on the agenda. Other thoughts, feedback, comments?
Yeah, some people ask me until, they still can apply for the home repairs? It's still open?
We've given out all the money for the senior repairs of encumbered, so that program is closed at this time. Yeah. Which somewhat buries the spoils a future agenda item, but in a good way. I mean, not in a good way if you're looking to apply, but the good news is it's gone really well and really smoothly, and I think we'll be repeating it in the future for sure.
I've got a quick question about public comment. Is there a way for, I don't know if there is, but a portal for which the public can provide feedback to us in terms of things that they're interested in seeing? Because I know one of the challenges that we talked about in the funding affordable housing committee, at least on my end, is understanding what the real need is, more than just sort of like a broad way, but more specific. So as we can, for example, the veterans program that Lori mentioned, I'm very curious to know, but I don't know what they need or in a sort of a specific way. Is there a way for us to craft a portal so that they can comment on like this meeting or anything else?
So we do have that. So appreciate you making sure we have a chance to speak about it for those that are watching. So if you go on the Affordable Housing Trust website, there's like a comment or inquiry box, and we do actually receive some of those inquiries in the Planning and Community Development Office. Usually they're inquiries related to like, how can my family, receive support for affordable housing? And so our office steps in and does what we can to help. But that box is also generally there for feedback. So we should appreciate that, emphasize that, if people have feedback, commentary, in addition to the fact that people are welcome here or on our Zoom meetings, that comment box is on our website as well for people and that email goes to myself and to Tom, the chief of planning. And I'll share like I said, most of what we've gotten through there has been requests for assistance, or questions about like the repairs program or down payment assistance program. We get a lot of questions about the down payment assistance program. But in terms of like feedback about sort of policies or things we've implemented, we haven't gotten a lot of that. So I think it's, to your point, it's good that we emphasize that that's something that we welcome. So, and I'll talk to 311 and the website folks about making sure that that's prominent and people see that we welcome and encourage feedback. So thank you for that. Yeah. Anyone else? Okay, so we'll move forward. I just wanted to make sure to kind of have that time for December feels like a good time for big picture conversations. Okay, moving on to the next item of the agenda. So we talked about scheduling subcommittee meetings. We talked about fundraising. I think home ownership subcommittee is one that I'll send around a meeting schedule for, to meet like in 2 to 3 weeks or so, or actually probably not because that's the holidays. So probably more like early January before or adjacent to our next meeting. And that's where I'd like to dig into some of what we talked about, like these buy down programs, either for interest or for purchase cost, as well as other ideas for affordable units. So I will be sending out some information about that. Moving on to the senior repairs program, I promised you a status update. So we have 7 people that have actually been paid out because the work has been completed, which is exciting, for a total of $26,475 as of this week. And then we have another 6 people that they've been approved, they've signed their contract, and we're just waiting for them to send in their final invoice and pictures of the completed work. And once that happens, we then send them out their payment. Assuming all of that happens, we'll pay out the total of $55,000 that we allocated, which is perfect. And we have a wait list, so if any of these projects like don't get completed or someone withdraws from the program for some reason, we have, I think, 7 or 8 people that have been approved that are on a waiting list that if funds become available, we'll reach out to them. But at this point, my assumption and anticipation is we're going to pay out to these 6 people, and that'll be the full program for the year. So any questions about that program or how it's going? I'll say from my seat, things have gone incredibly smoothly. I know Anayo and Matt, I've copied you on a lot of the correspondence about the actual outlays of the funds, so you kind of see what that process looks like. I've been pleasantly, knock on wood, pleased with how smooth everything has gone. I mean, I think it speaks obviously to the professionalism of the staff in the treasurer's office and our CFO, in processing all of these smoothly. John Festa, the work that he's done in our planning community development office with his construction experience of, being in touch with the seniors about their projects and making sure that they're getting appropriate work done and getting an appropriate deal and things of that nature. As well as the work everyone did in helping craft a program, right? We put a lot of legwork in up front, so that way we knew it would go smooth when it came time for it to go. So I know we had like 5 or 6 meetings where we went over the application over and over and over again. But like the efforts were very fruitful. It was really worthwhile because the program has gone, like I said, knock on wood, incredibly smoothly. Just really pleased. All the different hiccups and concerns that we talked through mostly haven't come to fruition at this point. So really grateful for everyone's support and help on this one, and excited to get those last 6 checks out the door, hopefully in the next, month or so. Any questions about the program? Okay, well, great job, everyone. Moving on, quick update on affordable condo sales, because I know that we had, I think, 2 or 1 that was in progress and 1 that was forthcoming last time we met. So we actually had 1 unit that's under agreement, which is exciting. One of the units that we had inherited from the Malden Redevelopment Authority is under agreement to be sold to a Revere resident. So that's really exciting. Someone who'd been renting in the city, and now we'll have a condo here in the community. So they're eligible for down payment assistance in addition to getting the affordable unit, which is awesome. We love when we can like bundle everything together and really help make it as good a deal as possible. So that was exciting. There's another unit in that same building that's on the market now. So that's listed. So on the City of Revere website, under the programs and support page, which you can find on Planning and Community Development and on the Affordable Housing Trust Fund websites, we're maintaining a list when units become available. And so it's listed there now, and it should also be in the Revere Journal today, although I haven't read it yet. Apologies to our friends at the Revere Journal. I have it in my bag, but I haven't read the paper yet today. But it should be listed in there as well. And it's on My Mass Home, which is a listing website that has all the affordable units all throughout Massachusetts, and we're requiring them to be listed there so everyone knows exactly where to look, when units become available. So excited that 1 is under agreement, and then we hope that this next one does as well. Yep.
Sorry, Joe, would you be able to state again what website that is? My Mass Home, is it .org, .com?
Yes, I believe it's .org. It's mymasshome.org, and they compile listings statewide of affordable housing, and we're requiring resale units that are affordable to be listed there first, just to make sure that it's a process that's fair for everybody. We put it there, and we put it on the revere.org website so that everyone knows what's available, and send it to the newspaper as well.
Thank you again for repeating that.
Yep, absolutely. And I'll put that in the minutes as well. So great to have that one done, and hopefully this sets a trend of people knowing kind of what the process is like and how to do it. So any other questions on this? Okay. So moving on to the next item, and it's continuation from the last meeting, and it's obviously related to this. It's the topic of closing cost assistance. I know we wanted to take some time to look further into what would a reasonable amount be. If folks have thoughts or research, I'd love to hear that. I think from my standpoint, I think what I would probably propose or want us to consider as a starting point is we could create a pool of, I'd say, $30,000 as an example. And we can allow applicants to apply themselves for up to $5,000 max per applicant. And they would have to document like what those closing costs were to have them reimbursed. So it's not just like a straight check. It's, it cost me X for this fee, it cost me Y for that fee, it cost me Z for this fee, and then have it reimbursed. And people that would be eligible to get it would either be the buyer of an affordable unit, and then the seller, if it's a low to moderate income seller who's selling an affordable unit, right? Because then they have to go back to market The seller wouldn't be eligible if they were not income eligible. So I think that this would be, for instance, if you inherited an income eligible unit from a loved one and it's not your principal residence, so you're selling it. I would not want, not that we'd have anything against them, but that's not what this is intended for. It's more intended for the actual like low to moderate income family that owns the property. I would not want to make the broker fee eligible, because that's a mandatory part of the process. It's built right into the affordable price is the broker fee. And then I would not include the 1.5% fee that's payable to the city, which with your support, we've waived anyway for properties that go through the process of working with us to market it to a Revere resident. But if for some reason they didn't work with us, or if they sold it to a non-Revere resident, I wouldn't want to make this pool eligible to have that fee waived. I think that fee is supposed to help us fund what we do with the trust. So that's my modest proposal for what we might want to do, but I know that others wanted to take some time to look into it, so wanted to open it up for discussion.
Yeah, I think it's a good idea. I mean, even, maybe we only carve out $30,000 for it now, and we realize it's actually not that easy to execute on, but I don't know. I feel like this solves the same issue as the down payment assistance program. You don't have to bring as much cash to the table to close on your new house. But I feel like we might even have more success with this program because, we have the natural filtering of people are only going to engage with this most likely if they've already got a house in contract, they're more motivated to follow through. So yeah, I think that's the most interesting thing about this is it's really accomplishing the same thing, but curious to see if, we have a little bit kind of better response and easier execution because, we're going to be getting people engaged when they're a little further along in the process versus probably a part of the difficulty we've had with the down payment assistance program is it's a little bit chicken and the egg and, maybe people are a little bit less motivated to look into that because they're not actually kind of across that line of I've got an offer accepted on a house, I've got to figure out how I'm going to fund it.
Well, that range is actually consistent with the average median price for the closing cost and homes in Revere. I just looked it up. My only follow-up for the last time we talked about is the extent to which it can, the effect it would have on the folks who apply for it. And so to that, what is the total amount? You said 30,000, and how many folks are we trying to help with that?
So my proposal would be we make it a maximum of 30,000 sort of in the pool for a year. And each individual applicant can apply for up to $5,000 for themselves. So that would fund up to 6. Based on my understanding of the history, that's more than enough for the amount of affordable sales we'd expect to happen in a given year. Obviously, that won't be the case if we have like a large building open that has a lot of affordable restricted units that come open at once, which I think is a good problem to have, and we can address it, as it happens. So 6 roughly, and I'd say buyers and then sellers who are income eligible. So it could be like 3 sales if it's 3 that are both people are eligible to get support. But that's what I had in mind. Yeah.
And if you want to limit what the categories are, I think you were talking about, not covering brokers' fees or some of the other fees. I mean, I just looked up some of the common ones, but you could put in there, maybe the recording fee, prepaid taxes, title insurance, things like that. That would probably come out to about $5,000 and say, the Affordable Housing Trust Fund will contribute towards these 3 or 4 items off your, show up on the HUD statement. Set appraisal, but, you want to make sure that, things, I think that the house is going to close at that point, and that's where you're paying the money. But that, I like the idea, so if someone makes the motion, I'll second, or if I make the motion, whatever you want to do.
Well, I think what I would say is if someone wants to make the motion, what I would do is take that as a framework. I would develop it into an actual application with, like, here are the types of things we do and do not cover, here are the guidelines for who's eligible for it, and here's what the application would look like, I would present that to everybody, and then we could ratify it from there. That would be my suggestion, if anyone would agree to make that motion or wants to discuss it further.
Make the motion to set aside $30,000 in total towards a closing cost assistance program that'll be developed by the Affordable Housing Trust Fund, or by you? Is that how it works?
We have a
I
sec-
second.
I'll ask for a voice vote. All in favor, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
And any opposed? Okay, seeing none. I will work to develop what that application will look like. I'll circulate it to everyone, and then we'll do a formal ratification vote or modification if necessary at the next meeting. And then I'd ask if we could have like maybe 2 volunteers that want to just maybe take a preview run of it with me like we did with the senior repairs application. Show of hands, anyone that wants to.
I can help out if you like.
Perfect, yep, that'd be great.
I could as well.
Lori, I'll have Lori join on this one, so. Well, I'll
Lori, I
say-
don't want to steal your thunder.
Yeah.
You're more than welcome to do it.
Yeah, no, I think the 3 of us, we can do it, and
Yeah.
we can, we'll put together a draft, and we'll run through it, we'll make sure it's smooth, makes sense, and we'll present it to the broader group for a full vote. All right, terrific, thank you, everyone. Moving on to the next item. It is, I'm withdrawing this one, so this was gonna be a request for a waiver to our down payment assistance program. So the person who most recently was approved for it was enrolled in first-time homebuyer class, but it wasn't gonna be complete in time, I guess, possibly for closing, but it's no longer an issue. She just sent me her certificate that she completed her class, so we're good. I was gonna suggest that we vote to waive it, because she was in process. Not an issue anymore, so I'm withdrawing this agenda item. I don't know if anyone would object to, if this comes up in the future, I think as long as someone is enrolled in a course, if it's gonna prevent them from being able to close, I'd like to, we can't formally say that we would, but is that something people would entertain if we were to have to waive that in the future?
Case by case basis.
Yeah, case by case, right? Yeah.
Yeah, I believe that's a smart idea.
Yeah. Obviously, we don't wanna go too willy-nilly with it. We want people to follow the guidelines, but if it's, an obvious case, so appreciate that. Okay, so next is an update on the call for proposals, which we discussed. Really, the only update is that it's been posted. It was in the newspaper, it's on the website, and I've also reached out to some nonprofits that have historically worked with us or been interested in the work we do. And I won't name names because you know them, they've come before and spoken to us. Let them know that it's available. So we've not received any proposals to this point. If we do, I'll send them to everybody, and then we'd start discussing them at the next meeting. But that continues apace. So, and if you think of other audiences that we should be putting that in front of, let me know, and I'll make sure that we get it around. And I'll repeat the announcement of it in the paper, every, say 4 to 6 weeks or so it continues to be out there and circulated. Any questions about that? Okay. Seeing none. Next was just to check in on some of the first-time homebuyer programs. As I mentioned, we had the use of the down payment assistance, which was great. So we're excited about that. Like I said, it'll be 2 new ones that'll be done in the next couple weeks. So that's exciting. M&T Bank completed their first-time homebuyer workshop for Revere residents last week. I think it was. I don't know. I lose track of time. A week feels like a month sometimes. This is especially this time of year. But I think it was last week. And we had about a dozen people come to the Rumney Marsh Academy for it, which was not bad for a freezing cold night in the middle of the holiday season. So thank you to our friends at M&T Bank for talking through, the 1+ mortgage and all the different types of mortgage programs that people might be eligible for, credit tips, and different things that people need to know about the home buying process. So really appreciated that. We're definitely going to do it again, and I know Deb has been in touch about doing a Revere Chelsea combined program through her bank, and we'll send the details around to that to everyone once that gets scheduled. But that's something that we're excited about. And then we're continuing to develop and utilize the consolidated interest list that I mentioned. So we had people like sign up for expressing interest in being notified about affordable units when they become available, or being notified about things like down payment assistance or seminars. We've grown that mailing list, and we've used that mailing list to advertise the affordable units when they become available. So if you're out there and you're watching and you're interested in joining this list, that's also on the Affordable Housing Trust website, sort of how to sign up for it. Or you can call or email the Planning and Community Development Office, and we're happy to add you to that. And that way you can be notified anytime there's an affordable housing lottery or a unit that goes up for sale or anything like that. Any questions about these items? No? Okay. Next is just a quick timing update. We put together that application for the ADU loan program. I've begun the groundwork of getting it on the website. My hope is to have like a draft of what the application will look like for everyone to look at our January meeting. But again, much like with the senior repairs, I'm gonna want everyone to like walk through it a million times and make sure that we get it exactly right and that there's nothing, left up to that's confusing. So be on the lookout for that. I'll probably try to do some breakout calls with small groups to make sure people look at the application. They put in like a dummy application, make sure that it feels like a smooth process. But my ultimate goal would be to get that up and running and have people be able to apply for it by like February. Once we get closer to the spring construction season, be able to market it and have it available. So, any questions about that?
I have one quick question.
Yes.
Are these applications available in other languages for maybe residents that don't have English as their first language?
Yep. So everything will be made available in at least at bare minimum, the 4 languages that are most commonly spoken. English, Spanish, Portuguese, and why am I blanking? Arabic. Those are the 4 languages that we put everything on the website in to begin with, and then there's a translation available through our community liaisons program if needed to create additional versions if people request them. So the 4 would be created by default, and then additional versions could be created on request if needed.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Appreciate you making sure that we address that. Other questions? All right, so excited to get that moving, and I can state from like a city update standpoint that there's a pretty steady stream every month of a few new ADU applications. So the interest is definitely there. And hopefully with this program, we can help smooth that process out for some people. Okay. So next we move to public comment. Seeing none, I'll just ask if anyone else has anything additional to add or things that we haven't covered that they'd like to speak to. And that includes anyone that's on Zoom. Okay. Well, then if not, do I hear a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
All right.
I will say happy holidays and
Yes.
good year, good cheer
Same.
for next year. Really look forward to prosperity and happy health, prosperity, everything else for folks on the call and folks here. It's been a pleasure working with all of y'all.
My thoughts exactly. I really appreciate the work everyone's done. It's been a great year, and I know that it's not easy to be, part of a volunteer board and get emails from me at like 6 a.m. or things like that. And the service that you provide does not go unnoticed, and it's much appreciated. And warm wishes to your family for a great holiday season, and look forward to seeing everyone in January. And so there's been a motion to adjourn. Do I hear any objection? Seeing none. All right, we'll see you in 2026.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you to everyone.